FULCRUM, a Star Wars podcast. Your way of tapping into the Force from a galaxy far, far away. Hello there.
Hello, what have we here?
Here's where the fun begins. Count me in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to FULCRUM, a Star Wars podcast. Today, we continue coverage of The Acolyte with Season 1, Episode 3, titled Destiny. This was a goodie. Because it was actually directed by Kogo Nada, who is a very good director, and I was super excited for his episodes. It was also written by Jasmine Flournoy and Eileen Shim, created by Leslie Headland. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And, man, what a pleasure this one was. I mean, we're getting a little, we're illuminating things a bit. Not completely, but a little bit. For those who are joining us for the first time, so you know, we're going to spoil the shit out of the episode of The Acolyte. If you have not watched it, you shouldn't be here. We do full episode breakdowns. I'm going to take us through the show scene by scene. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it. But before we get there, how are you feeling about Season 1, Episode 3, Destiny, fresh off it?
It's very fresh. Star Wars is what I kept coming back to, is that it's so cool that we can just get these. I mean, it is a massively different era of Star Wars, so I don't even really know what to expect in the first place. But just getting a witches storyline. I don't know, it's just they call themselves witches. I don't know if they have any connection with anything else that we know of, but the thread, I don't know, this is the first time I've heard of that. Just all these new concepts and stuff like that, all these new characters and a different take on the Jedi. I'm kind of, I don't know, definitely seeing the Jedi a little differently right now. A lot more suspicious of them than I've ever been.
Yeah, no, it's actually perfect. I was watching. So Emily came down, and she's okay with me watching it as soon as it drops and stuff. She's going to do her business. She's going to do her skincare routine, all this stuff. But I usually, she usually gets done during the episode. She'll come, lay down, and watch a little bit of it with me. And the scene where they're doing the standoff, basically, where the Jedi arrive at the fortress during the Ascension ceremony, and it's really tense. She goes, "So who's the good guys and who's the bad guys?" I go, "That's a great question, babe."
Wow.
That's that is a good question, because I'm like, that's kind of what they're doing. She couldn't read the tone. She was like, "I don't know who." Oh, sorry about that noise. She couldn't read it. She was like, it doesn't seem like the Jedi are supposed to be good. And I'm like, you are reading that absolutely correct, darling. Because that was definitely the jarring thing about this episode, is being like, we got a little taste of the cop Jedi in the first couple episodes, but this one,
huge.
It's it feels bad. It feels icky.
They use the word authority. They I don't know. It was just straight out of the
authority of the
textbook.
Republic, and I think it's just church and state. How are we gonna? You got to separate these things a little bit. It's odd that under Republic law, the Jedi are the only religion granted amnesty in this regard. They're the ones who are allowed to train or test young Padawans. It's illegal for this coven to be trying to train young children. So that's I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about it, and this was a great half of this story. This background. I'm excited to get the little Rashomon view switch a little bit from the Jedi perspective and see exactly what happened, and maybe finally get a final concrete explanation, sort of the Last Jedi, Kylo's version, Luke's version, actual truthful version,
Yeah, we still need answers. There's still some questions, new questions that arise, but still we need some answers. But yeah, no, very, very cool that we're spending time back in this flashback for the whole episode, pretty much, and then assuming that we're going to get some more we have to get more. But I'd assume we're probably gonna jump back to present. I don't know. It'll be interesting next episode, but
I imagine we'll get a little. Well, it's also interesting pacing wise. Do you jump back to present right now? You know, or do you go ahead and put the gas to the floor?
I mean, episode ends with May, kind of being like, I am alone now, and we know who she becomes. We know that she's been training probably since then. Who knows how long it took her to find this, masked guy. But
it might make sense for Kelnaka to be the mission next week. We're on Kofar. That would probably make sense. But yeah, I'm curious. I'm excited to see where it goes. And if you're ready, I'm ready to do a scene-by-scene breakdown if you are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
All right. So we open on Brendok 16 years ago where young Osha is playing with the Star Wars approximation of a butterfly. Perhaps a little too rough with the Force, beneath a bunta tree. And May approaches her and is far, far rougher with the animal, both exhibiting their Force sensitivity. But I did think there was an interesting contrast here where, Osha had that urge. She did it. She freezes the butterfly in place. And then May does it. And May doesn't do it any more intensely. She just does it for a little longer. But Osha really doesn't like it, And there's already an interesting tendency where I feel like a couple times in this episode they show that they have the same instincts. But whenever May does them, Osha all of a sudden doesn't like those instincts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they feel
kind
like
of just a sibling thing, I do the same thing as my brothers, like whenever my brothers would do something similar to me, I'd be like, fuck, why the fuck would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think they feel like opposites so much, like they're so like just very yin yang, but then at the same time they do feel obviously similar, in that whole saying they have of born as two, but or I don't know
always one.
That whole always
one, but born as
two. Yeah, I mean, and it's just really like this whole dichotomy, how the show is just flipping back and forth and just showing these differences, but all the while just they are twins and they are kind of similar, but just different, just going down different life paths. That's kind of the only difference between them. But
two sides of the same coin. That's kind of the idea that I'm getting. But it becomes clear that this bunta tree is a regular respite for Osha, and May makes that clear, saying that whenever she can't find her, this is where she comes. And when she continues to play rough with the butterfly, Osha gets upset. And it's here that she reveals that she doesn't want to do the ascension. But May's like, nah, it'll be fine. It's okay. We'll do it together. Everything's cool. And Osha's like, okay. They recite their little chant, and, they're all cute in the woods and joining hands and such. But they're corralled by Mother Coral, who insists it isn't safe to be beyond the fortress walls and that there are consequences for leaving the fortress. And as they walk off, they are watched by a young master soul. And we get the title card, a title card which has become a little bit more important with the detail of, the O being like a red ring with a blue ring behind it, matching the moons of Brendok, as we see later in this episode.
Yeah, that's dope.
Which is cool.
I don't know
very
how
cool.
the moons end up looking like that, but that's way cooler than like even a solar eclipse. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Kind of similar, but no, this one was
similar
sick.
premise.
Very sick.
This shit ripped.
Yeah.
That shit was beautiful. Brendok is a lovely planet, planet. But arriving back at the fortress, May and Osha are reprimanded for their behavior and told they are not allowed any spice cream. But their mama decides it will be just fine. The girls embrace their mother Anastasia, and her sweet girls need sweet treats. Notably, upon entering the compound here, there are no men or other children. Quickly pick up on that. And that kind of confirms suspicions. They do have mothers, I feel like it becomes clear that Anastasia and Coral are intimate in some capacity.
Yeah.
In the next scene. But it did stand the reason that their culture, the elders, the older people who are women, are just mother blank. Not strictly that they have two mothers, and so like I thought that was a possibility, but it was cool to get confirmation on that. But Mother Anastasia and Coral discuss the girl's behavior in the presence of the Jedi on their planet in private, quite intimately. And Coral warns that she is too gentle with the children, and they need discipline. And when Anastasia argues their behavior is normal for children, Coral insists that they are not normal children. Now, at first, you're watching this and you're like, okay, that just means they're Force sensitive. That's what makes them special. And then we get to the next scene and you're like, oh, they're all Force sensitive. So what makes them so special? And again, we're back on that. I'm super excited because something really cool is happening where it's clear the Jedi are lying. They are about 100%. Something. Yeah. We don't know particularly what happened. We know it's not what the Jedi are saying. The other end of that is that the witches are also not being 100% honest about the girls in some capacity, and to the girls, and I'm really excited to figure out what that all means, what it all is, because I've seen a lot of comparisons online, obviously, and the parallels are there undoubtedly between Osha and Anakin. With the will I ever see you again, and
immaculate conception sort of thing as well is what it seems like. So
it's not though.
You don't think? I mean,
Anastasia conjures them.
Yeah, but is that's
not immaculate conception?
Well, I guess maybe that's not the idea I'm trying to go for. Like I guess we really don't know how Anakin was really made. Shmi just says like there was no father. He just can't. He just happened. And
my understanding
maybe,
when it comes to Anakin, and I know that a comic has depicted Palpatine fucking with Shmi, and I think that's just a literal representation of what larger scale is happening, where Palpatine manipulated the dark side of the Force so heavily that the light had to balance it out, and thus created Anakin Skywalker. So I think Anakin is literally a product of the Force, where Osha and May are a product of Anastasia. Like she made them, obviously through the thread, as she calls it. But
because I was just wondering if this is the very beginning of the storyline of like Palpatine does some research, finds out that 300 years ago or however long ago this happens, and then he does his little spin on it to create Anakin down the line.
And that's possible. That's distinctly possible. But my if they wanted to take it that route, I wouldn't mind it.
And they don't have to connect.
It bothered me a little bit.
Yeah,
I guess. I mean, I don't generally want that anyway. Like, no matter what medium or outlet does it, no matter what show or movie does it, to say, oh, well, actually Palpatine did create Anakin. I don't want that. I much prefer the idea that he was created by the Force itself. But, if they do take it that way, they take it that way. I suppose we'll see. But we then head to the training room for the girls' lesson. And Anastasia explains the concept of the thread. All living things are connected by the thread, woven through all existence. She uses the Force and carries a fruit to herself and pushes it to Osha. She explains that some people call it the Force and aim to use it, but they know that the thread is not a power you wield. She says that if you pull the thread, you change everything. It ties you to your destiny. It binds you to others. Now this is actually, it's interesting because I feel like this coven, I wish we got like a name for them. And I'm excited to get a name for them. But because I love different Force-wielding cultures, and the High Republic specifically deals a lot with them. And I feel like they're getting at something that, come the prequel trilogy, the only Force-wielding religion anyone knows is the Jedi.
Yeah, maybe we just call them just Anastasia's Coven for now until we get a name.
Yeah, I'm just going to... but, like, I do think it's interesting that they do kind of combine elements from other Force-wielding entities we've seen, specifically the Night Sisters, of course, the only other witches. But the other one is actually from the books. It's called the Path of the Open Hand. And they actually aren't a force-wielding culture. They refuse... this is their idea, like, we don't touch the Force. If you touch the Force, you're evil. If you take the Force from one place, it's being taken away from another. Like, you use the Force... There's like a limited amount of Force. If you take this Force, it's not available for someone else who needs it.
Okay. I think I remember this. Yeah, that's.
I've talked to you about it a little bit, and there's even similar imagery. The Path of the Open Hand. This is how they salute. They put their hands out like this, and that's what they do during this as well. But it's interesting too because there's also this obvious hypocritical angle where they're not allowed to pull the thread. But clearly, Anastasia has pulled the thread in creating May and Osha.
Yeah, she's
and
done
I think it's
something.
kind of
Yeah.
I think they're getting at the fact that none of these religions are capable of refusing that Force, like having access to it and being incapable of not touching it, Like, I feel like there's just, you have it, you're going to fucking use it, and you're going to use it to benefit you in some capacity.
Yeah, it feels like Anastasia's Coven is also, like, they're all, like, on the run, it seems, this is, like, a planet that they've had to escape to. They had to go out of the Republic's control or jurisdiction, and then... I mean, it's sad to see, that they're all pretty much wiped out. But before then, they're obviously trying to just up their defense or up their... Like, I'm assuming that's their justification for creating Osha and May, probably, is that, like,
and that's what I'm curious how much they dive into the connection it clearly has to the Path of the Open Hand.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Because they, Anastasia does later say, we were persecuted, we were wiped out, we were on the brink of extinction. Now, I'm curious if that is this specific coven of thread pullers or if it is more related to the Path of the Open Hand. I doubt it will be. I feel like they're going to, they're going to try to steer clear of connecting it to, like, explicit content in the books.
Yeah. As
much as they can. But it would make sense if that's where they were persecuted from. I guess that's 100 years before Phase 1 of the High Republic, and Phase 1 of the High Republic's like 150 years before this, so, probably not. But, there's just a lot of interesting connections. I was getting a lot of Path of the Open Hand vibes from this coven, except that they actually do wield the Force.
They do? So they don't fuck with the Force, the Path of the Open Hand, but, like, do they just worship it? Like, it's kind of like they just understand it's there, and
they understand it's there. They refuse. They say, like, it's about power and who's allowed to wield it. Nobody's allowed to wield it, according to the Path of the Open Hand. That's something that they are not allowed to touch. Nobody is allowed to wield it.
Do they just live normal lives, or, like, what do they do? Like, what?
Essentially, they really normal basic living. At first, they have, like, a farming community on a planet called Dalna. They're kind of like missionaries. They have their in Game of Thrones, whenever you see, like, a red priestess preaching on the streets to people, they kind of had a similar thing going on.
Okay.
Especially since we're talking about a period that was the height of the Jedi. Their express, quote-unquote, enemies are the Jedi, because they are the most prominent power in the galaxy and use the Force on a daily basis. They feel like they are sinning against the Force, essentially.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of preaching to do. It goes a little far. Cool. It goes a little far. But yeah, it's that's the thing, is that it's an idea that I can, like, generally respect as a perspective on the Force. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, that's sound. That makes sense. I get where you're coming from. It's just the extremes that some of the people in the past have been willing to take it, and the clear hypocrisy that's coming from this coven specifically regarding the thread. because that, at least with the Path of the Open Hand, they were like, don't even fucking touch it.
Yeah.
You know, like a Jedi walks up to a young woman in the Path named Marta Rowe, and he makes flowers float, and she like reacts in horror. She's like, Jesus Christ, what have you done? You know, like it's
Wow.
not like you can make a fruit float towards yourself, and they're gonna be like, whoa, cool, that was small, no big deal. They're gonna be like, no, what the fuck? Like, you just did something that you're not supposed to do.
Wow. Wow.
So the rules are a little different here, which is also really interesting. But there is similar imagery, the swirl on the forehead, but it's I doubt they'll actually explicitly make that connection, but there does seem to be something there. Maybe it gets a mention, you know, like they were kind of like the Path of the Open Hand many centuries ago or something like that. I don't know, but either way, I'm down because this is a cool fucking sect of Force users. But anyway, she calls one of the women to the front of the class and has a brief Force battle with her. And ultimately the mother prevails, and she explains that this is the power of one. She calls up another woman, and they together go toe-to-toe with the mother as well, but ultimately do not prevail. This is the power of two. And tonight, they will witness the power of many. And all throughout the lesson, the girls are pushing each other back and forth. May is insisting that Osha pay attention, and Osha's not really doing a good job. They keep pushing each other, therefore neither of them are paying attention. Classic sibling shit. Until they can't even privately keep their shoves to themselves, they begin fighting openly, and Coral looks to Anasea disapprovingly, and Anasea then decides to take her earlier advice and pushes the girls through the thread, using the guise of a lesson, saying, "Your enemy will not warn you before they attack," and the girls are knocked to the ground. They get up and are instructed to block the mother's push. May rises to the occasion, and Osha hides scared, and she is condemned by Coral while May is praised. And a noise shakes them in the distance, and the girls are sent to their room. This was another interesting part. I thought it was cool to see the contrast again between May and Osha and their instincts. You know, she refused, like, Osha is actively afraid of her capabilities, it seems like.
Yeah, just literally ran behind May and did not even try to use the Force at all. So is it wrong just to call it the Force here? Like, or is it like
no? I mean, like, I'll go back and forth between calling it the Force and the thread, but no, I don't think it's wrong to call it the Force. Like, that is what we know it as in Star Wars, so it's fine.
Yeah, but I don't know. These new takes is, you know, some people. I don't know. I really hate just getting on social media and seeing just like blind, like, I don't know. It just seems like it's blind hate for the show. But like while I'm watching it, like I get zero of that. And it's just like it's visual. This episode, like visually, I thought actually looked really, really good. And like just very I don't know, some camera movements were just actually like very well thought out, I thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Kogonada there. The director is fucking incredible. He actually collaborated with Jodie Turner-Smith, the woman playing Mother Anasea, on a great movie called After Yang. I believe I've actually told you about it. I think it was one of my TikTok movie recommendations of the week.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Colin Farrell, a sci-fi movie about a android who dies. But the family mourns him like a son and a brother and stuff. Like it's really, really good. And it's really well directed. And Jodie Turner-Smith is really good in it. So it's cool to see them click back up here. And it makes sense that would be when she was introduced. But yeah, dude, it was gorgeous. It looked really, really good. One thing that did strike me again, and it's just something the show and most prestige shows have, is that there's a lot of shots that just look the same. And it's not even, I don't think it's a director's fault. I think it's just trying to create a visual language for generally Star Wars TV. And it works really well in some cases, but in other cases it's just kind of boring. I thought later on the Ascension ceremony, I thought could have looked a lot.
Honestly,
could have looked a lot better.
Like we have this massive whatever solar. I don't even know what lunar eclipse. I don't even know what to call that.
Right.
But having that going on in the background, and then they just put fog everywhere. You know, they were like, let's just gray, bluish fog it up, and yeah, I don't know. Could have been a little nicer. Like the whole rest of the planet was beautiful. Like that tree,
Gorgeous.
Bergmont, was it or what was the name of it? Bunta. Yeah, B felt right, but yeah, the Bunta tree. Maybe my new favorite tree in Star Wars. Ahsoka, I think it did that last time with that red tree planet. The red. I just like the look of that forest.
Yeah.
But man, as a singular tree goes, I don't know in Star Wars if there's one that beats this. But no, yeah, the whole planet looked great until the Ascension ceremony. But yeah,
and even then, it wasn't terrible. It didn't look like there were certain shots during it that looked great, and you're like, oh yeah, this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But then you transfer to a different shot, and you're like, okay, well now it's flat again.
Yeah.
And that's just generally my complaint with most television modernly. One of the things I've been rewatching Ahsoka as well because I just finished my rewatch of Rebels and wanted to flow right into Ahsoka. And I mean, that was my main gripe with Ahsoka is that it's just incredibly fat. It's incredibly flat. It just looks like there wasn't even an attempt at lighting anything, basically. And that's something I appreciate about this is that there are shots where I feel like they're attempting lighting, and then I feel like it almost goes away.
Yeah. I mean, like beautiful shot. Like I'm thinking in the girls' bedroom. While I think Anise is giving him like a little talk, making him hold hands and makeup and everything, and just the sun coming through the window
gorgeous.
there, and it looked good. But then, like even within the same room, it kind of went away. I like in that scene, and then kind of looked a little bland. But then they went back and then showed that angle again, and it looked good. But so
and then I mean during the Ascension ceremony, there's like a side angle where Mother Anasea is on the left side of the screen, standing above the girls, and they're kind of silhouetted, the light streaming through, and then you go to straight up on either of them, and it's again just kind of flat. And I'm like, I don't, and it is what it is. I'm just not a huge fan of naturalistic lighting. I want stuff to look dramatically lit. I don't.
We're in Star Wars, we're in a galaxy far away right now. Let's go crazy.
And that's
with
something
it.
that the movies have notoriously been good at. When it has been good at it, Empire Strikes Back, Revenge of the Sith, Attack of the Clones, they're all filled with some excellent lighting, and so Andor was really well lit as well, and that's why I'm like, I don't know. I'm curious why that's kind of gone out the window a little bit, but it's not enough to make me actively dislike the way the show looks. I still think it looks really good because, again, we kind of fall back on this thing where when it comes to production design and costume design, them doing this naturalistic lighting allows for all of that to shine. And all of that looks really good, So, like, there is kind of a balance. It's like, okay, well, I would prefer this was lit more dramatically and lit a little better, but if it was, I might not see all the pretty stuff that is on set.
Are they going super meta with it? Everything's so yin yang in the show. They need just really good stuff, so they just have to have the shit too, or just the bleh to make it seem better. We could
give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, sure. That'll be that's my headcanon.
That's the explanation we need.
Yeah.
Anywho, in their room, Osha explains that she doesn't want to do the Ascension to her mother. And she doesn't know if she wants to be a witch. And May insists, of course you want that. And they fight briefly before the mother puts their hands together and makes them keep them there. She explains that they are sister. The thread tied them together before birth. She tells them to tell each other that they love one another. And she explains that the Ascension is about walking through fear, sacrificing yourself, the power of many instead of the power of one. And she says that Osha thinks she wants a life outside the coven, but that is because she is young. She will learn. And she says that the witches have been persecuted, but that these two are special. She wants them to stay special. So it's interesting. It almost feels like there's a certain power they have when together that they won't have alone. I think is kind of what she's getting at.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of took it more as like, I need to protect you. Like, I don't want you to go down the wrong path. And
I think that is the more, like, that is what she's saying to her daughters. You know, like, as a mother speaking to her daughters, it is more that.
Yeah,
it
but
is
I like
more
that,
like, I love you guys. I want you to. But I do think there is, in this mystery of what May and Osha are, whenever Mother Anasea, in the context of what they are all capable of, says, but you too are special. You know, like...
Okay, yeah.
I want you to stay special. I'm curious.
That's going to make that
I'm
team
so excited
up,
to figure out.
Or like, I don't know.
They'll be eventually they're gonna work together on something.
Right? They have to, right? Like, I'm not just like hopeful or wishful thinking for them to come together and work together.
I mean, maybe, but like, I think it's probable at this point. You know, like, I don't think that's something. I imagine that their loyalty to each other will outweigh anything else eventually in some fight to come. Mostly because I'm fairly certain Osha will learn the truth, and then her and May will work together in some capacity.
Yeah,
maybe that's at the very end, but
maybe when Osha knows
can't
the
imagine
truth,
it going another way.
She maybe the path of the open hand is really like a possibility here. That could be a really cool angle to take of, like, once Osha learns the truth, she might still kill, and team up with May and get rid of, the 4 Jedi, whatever. But then maybe, I don't know, or maybe she's like, you know what? All of this meddling with the Force has only caused so much death and bad. Yeah. I am going to take this oath, and maybe, I don't know, maybe she Tommins it up and takes that oath, or
it goes
something like that. But
bow.
Yeah,
no, that's like, I don't know, man. I'm excited though because like there's just all sorts of avenues they could take with May and Osha right now, and none of them look incredibly good in terms of making me happy. But hey, that's what storytelling's all about. Let's do this shit. But in their preparation for the Ascension, May questions how many spice creams they're going to eat tonight. She takes the guess that she'll eat 4. At least 4, which I was like, the specific mention of the number 4 made me kind of go like, I'm at least gonna do this to 4. I was like, maybe she's got plans to kill more Jedi after this. I didn't even. Yeah, I just kind of took it as like, no, she wants to smack down after the Ascension. I did too. Like,
but yeah,
again, that is what the context of that scene is. But I'm going like,
why? Yeah, why?
And it's a cute line. It's a sweet. It's a sweet. Like, and no matter what, it does. It literally probably doesn't mean what I'm thinking. But like, just that little, I think I'll eat at least 4. Just kind of like, okay, at least 4. Maybe there's more after this, but Osha works tirelessly drawing something in her notebook, which she refuses to let May see. And May says it isn't fair. She shares everything, and Osha runs and hides. And Osha claims she wants to do her own things. She doesn't want to do everything together all the time. She says that they're not the same. And May insists, we are the same. And Osha again disputes. She says it feels that way because we're the only children there. And this gets an interesting reaction from the women doing their hair. They pause, look at each other real quick, and then go back to what they're doing. Again,
well, I don't know how.
There's clearly something weird going on.
Is it more of like they've never really brought this up? This is the first time that they've brought this up, and then like it seems that everyone else knows the secret, or everyone else knows how they were created, or whatever happened. But maybe they were just like, are they going to ask the question? Are they about to ask us? Where they came from, or like, is that what the look was?
I don't know how to read it. The look kind of gave me that, but it also gives me sort of like there is an important secret regarding why they are the only children. And. They're not the ones who are going to answer it, I don't think.
How large of the reason is the Jedi thing? Like that the Jedi have the sole authority, it seems, to train children and test Padawans and such. And I don't know, is it just the quick testing period that they do to see if they can become a Padawan that they have the authority to do, or is it like any kid that is force sensitive they can take and become a Padawan with the permission of the parent, of course, blah blah.
Yeah,
like
I think both. I'm pretty sure both. I think that all they have the technical authority to do without permission is test the child. I think they can test the child no matter what.
Wow. So it's just actually taking the child after the test. That is, they need permission.
And that's the thing about this episode, too. They also blur the line there. The Jedi are incredibly manipulative.
Yeah, it's
like
not
disturbingly
looking good.
so.
It is not looking good for the Jedi.
No,
it's
not
looking
one
like
bit.
they set up this whole thing, or at least, I mean, they were spying on them for a while as well. And whatever happened to, I mean, every single one of them are dead, and they got like almost 2 kids. Like Soul shows up, and he almost could have saved both of them there, and that was probably their goal. Is they just wanted both kids to train as Padawans, and I mean, they only got one, I guess, but they probably got the one that they wanted more because May is just much more in with the
Dedicated.
Coven, and she's not going to really give in to the Jedi code, and it really seems like hardcore just gaslighting. I don't know, and just manipulation.
Does. And I think that there's a certain degree to it too, where like how much of it is the fault of these specific Jedi when it feels clear that they're almost just spewing the same old shit. Like, this isn't a new thing, like this is how they were brought in, like this is just the
Soul
the
even
culture that's been created, and I don't know, it's fascinating because there's a lot of, it would have been a lot easier to trust the Jedi if Anaseo was a bad mom, but she's not. She's extremely loving, and she makes it clear, and she's very supportive of her daughters, and she wants what's best for them, and she makes it, she loves them, and it's clear that the Coven loves them, and obviously there's an ulterior motive, but the same goes for the Jedi, like they're really sweet, they're really kind, they're really nice to the little girls, but that's because they want the little girls to come with them, like it's not like it's it's not like it's altruistic, and that's why I think they're creating a really interesting dichotomy here where they're both lying about something, but it's interesting. I'm excited for it, but Osha asks if May wonders what's out there beyond Brendok, but May doesn't. Everything she needs is here. And then the Ascension ceremony begins. We watch as several women vocalize a song and do ritualistic hand movements to access the thread. They in unison stop and bow before their mother. She walks forth, palms raised, and she talks to her people. Tonight we enact a ceremony we have not performed since our exile. We were hunted, persecuted, forced into hiding, all because some would consider our power dark, unnatural. We were on the brink of extinction, and then we were blessed with a miracle, the gift of life. So, this is an interesting idea, and what I wanted to get back to regarding the prequel trilogy and the saga we know, with kind of there only seemingly being Jedi left, which is, do the Jedi persecute other Force religions at this time?
Ooh. Yeah, is it like if any Force-sensitive group is getting a little too strong, they'll be like, if we can find any way to take you guys out, we're going to do that, And yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Jedi are lying about, but it's just not looking good for them.
No.
It's looking like they kind of set this whole thing up and it went how they wanted it to go. And that's not a good look. And yeah, I mean, it's
That's
really
the thing,
seeming...
though, is that I don't think it could have gone exactly how they wanted it to go, or else they wouldn't feel guilt about it.
True. Yeah. Tom. I keep calling him Tommen. I gotta stop.
Torben, not too
Torben.
far off.
It's close. Yeah, Torben. Torben taking that oath is pretty telling. Like, and
I mean,
we
and
haven't gotten that
clearly-
explanation yet. You know,
It clearly weighs on Soul, as we've seen in the last couple episodes. Like whenever he gets a moment to himself, he's clearly heavily contemplating something. Doesn't seem like Indara feels. Period.
Yeah.
Indara's a little scary.
Yeah, she's
the one who
cop
gives me just
by the
horrendous
book.
vibes.
Yeah, just it is
Obviously, like in the very first scene of the show, she does what a Jedi's supposed to do, and I think that it's her thing. She does what a Jedi's supposed to do. But yeah, there's something kind of scary about her that I don't love yet.
Yeah, it's what a weird like the Jedi. Like I remember even before this show, I like the switch of being like, oh, maybe the Jedi aren't so good. You know, just taking children from their families and doing that. But that was kind of like a late realization. I always just thought of the Jedi just as the good guys and the Sith as the bad guys, and not not anything deeper than that. But then now, like this show it's kind of clearly painting the Jedi as the bad, not
in a negative light,
truly,
at least.
but
They're not through and through
it's-
bad, but there are bad practices that go with them. And I think that's... I think they are trying to say a lot about indoctrination and just kind of, propagandically pushing someone down one way and keeping them in that path, and that's just kind of your life now, and I think that that's the case for a lot of religion, even outside of Star Wars. It's just kind of like, this is what you believe now. Cool. My parents never forced religion on me in any real capacity. I was baptized Catholic before I could speak.
Yep.
And that's not like, I don't find it to be that big of a deal, but like in terms of, when we're talking about like religious practices and indoctrination, like when I did come of age, if I was interested in becoming religious, that was the religion I was going to follow, because I was baptized Catholic.
Yeah.
So
it's
like
weird.
that's
weird concept.
interesting, and like I think that there's something to the idea that they're kind of playing with there, but yeah, I'm interested because even in the High Republic books and novels, the Force wielding groups do have sort of a coalition on Jedha. There's not, there's animosity, but there's not hate. There's nobody's trying to wipe anybody else out. They work together to try and figure out a way to make life better for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be interesting to see if between then and now there's started a trend where the Jedi are kind of like, well, we'll figure out a way to not make that happen anymore. But the crowd parts for May and Osha in ceremonial garb walking toward their mother, and as they make their way, the witches bow with their palms to the sky and salute, and Coral tells them to come and claim their destiny. They kneel before Mother Anastasia as she recites, "What the thread has tied together no one can separate." In the background lurks the moons which have aligned, recreating the O and the logo of the show, and the witches begin to chant, "The power of one, the power of two, the power of many." They thrust to the sky on the first line, tugging the thread they've created with the second, and mixing it all up with the third. And they reach for Anastasia. Their moons glow and energy flows. She takes the thread and asks Mayho if she vows upon her death to protect the secrets of our coven and continue our legacy. May agrees. So, interesting as well. Did Mother Anastasia create this group? It seems like upon her death, will May protect their secrets and continue their legacy? Or was this passed down to Anastasia as well, and she had to take the same oath? How long have they been in exile? How long has it been since they performed this ceremony?
Yes. Yeah, and why were they exiled in the first... It seemed maybe it was... I mean, if the Jedi are spying on them, it's probably safe to assume the Jedi were the reason that they are in exile in the first place.
I imagine the Jedi are who persecuted them. But that's the other thing, too, is that they have a power that the Jedi consider dark and unnatural. So, like, do they feel a moral righteousness in, like, not defeating them, but persecuting them because they use the dark side in some capacity, you know?
Yeah, that's possible.
Like, no matter what ends they use it to, they use the dark side, you know? And
oh, dude, that's going to be so sick. Is that if it's the Jedi persecuting Anasea's coven because they're using just any amount of dark side. You know, they're using the dark side of the Force, but for the right intentions, but just any amount of dark side Force at all is wrong to the Jedi. But then the path of the open hand sees the Jedi just as equally bad. You know, it's this kind of hierarchy, but then when the path of the open hand is introduced, it's like, no, actually all of you guys are wrong. And I kind of really hope they do introduce that now. That's a really cool angle, and they're kind of setting it up for it a little bit, I think.
Well, and that's what's interesting is that, like, the path of the open hand existed far long ago.
So is this just like a very you know, I don't know, like a Death Watch of the Mandalorian, you know, just like a cult.
It could,
you know,
be,
just like
but
a
that's
side.
The thing is that when it came to the path of the open hand, there were people within their ranks who were Force sensitive, but they weren't a Force sensitive group.
Oh yeah, because they don't.
It was normal people that couldn't touch the Force in most cases, who felt that way. You know, so like that's what's interesting is that this is a group of Force sensitive women. And when it came to the path, there were also men and children. There was everybody involved. So, like, this is a very specific, not quite the same, could have evolved from it sort of deal. But in the books, and I'm not going to go into this, we know the path of the open hand evolves into something else. We also know that. And what they evolve into, I don't see this evolving from that, if that makes sense. And that's why I'm like, I think it could be, like, the path that as it originally stood, never changed and kind of evolved and got to this point maybe, but it'll be interesting regardless. I'm excited to see, but May agrees to the oath Anastasia is swearing her to, and she places her hands to her face, and the ritual leaves May with a swirl on her forehead to match her mother's. The same is asked of Varosha Anastasia, and when she hesitates yet notably does affirm the mother's question, the ceremony is interrupted by a group of Jedi, Indara, Sol, Kelnaka, and Torben. The girls are instructed to hide, and Torben is introduced as Indara's Padawan, as everything is at first tense but respectful. Mother Anastasia demands no violence be done, and they introduce themselves. The Jedi are accused of trespassing. However, the Jedi believe the planet uninhabited, so, you know, like, what the hell? And Anastasia taunts, the all-knowing Jedi were ignorant of their surroundings. I find that hard to believe. And Osha and May attempt to sneak through the crowd but remain hidden, and Osha watches them reverently while May attempts to get her to calm down, and Anastasia finally inquires, what do they want? And Indara says that they are concerned they are training children here. The Republic law states otherwise. However, Brendok is not in the Republic, and they claim there are no children. And Kelnaka quickly spots evidence on the contrary. The girls are called out of hiding. Osha is quite trusting, but May hesitates. And Indara asks Anastasia where their father is, and Anastasia confirms there is no father. Sol speaks to Osha by herself first, and when May approaches, he notices the new swirl on her forehead, which wasn't there when he spotted them this morning. And the witches protest, they want to take our children. However, Sol insists the Jedi do not take children, and when one of the witches threatens him, he reaches for his saber. Originally, it seems from, a negative instinct, but he corrects it quickly, kneels, and hands it to Osha. And she takes it, enamored by the Jedi and his weapon. And Sol tells her that she would make a good Jedi, and asks if she would like to be tested as one. And when Osha is excited by the idea, she turns to her mother for approval. She does not grant it, but does grant some dark sway over Torben. She threatens the Jedi, saying they have to leave or the boy's mind is bye-bye. And Osha again pleads with her mom to let her take the test. And Indara says that Anastasia cannot deny that the Jedi have the right to test younglings for potential Padawanhood. And Torben is released. The Jedi leave on the agreement that they will be brought to the Jedi camp tomorrow midday for testing.
I love
And,
Torben's reaction to getting out of that as well.
Oh
he's
my
like,
god, when he
he's
comes
like,
out, he's like, what the fuck, man?
Like,
Yeah.
I wonder what he was going through, or like what, like, honestly, it says, if you want your Padawan's mind to be right again, right? That's like kind of, I don't know if that's the exact verbiage, but like, if you want him to be okay, just ever again.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's
why I'm
nuts.
like, hey. And I love Soul. I do. And I don't think he has any ill intent, but I think it's a really good indication of sort of the mind, you know, the indoctrination the Jedi put people through. You know, like he looks at her, and before he asks her if she wants to do anything, he says, I think you would make a good Jedi.
He's really just lighting her up, you know, just being like, handing her his weapon, saying,
and,
you know,
he doesn't say
Jedi.
that to May. You know, so is there the possibility he senses that Osha is more interested in that? It is something that's exciting her. It is something that she's interested in. He doesn't offer it to May because he's like, May clearly doesn't dig this, you know? Like, so there's also that layer, too, where it's like, is it because he can sense what they're interested in that he does lay it on thick? And I think there's a complicated balance going on with everything here because... it feels icky, you know, and Dara being like, come out, we won't hurt you.
We'll only take you away from your family forever and train you in our ways. And it is really weird because like it seems, you know, the Jedi I know, they at least had the right intentions in mind. At least it was really just destroying Palpatine at the end of the day is what it boiled down to. So it wasn't really complicated. But in this time period where there's a Jedi on every planet, they have a presence that is it's not even close to what we had in the movies we know, and it just changes the game so much. And I love we can only do that with an era change, like with a complete era, like. Just get out of the timeline we know, and we can do shit like this, and it's awesome. And I don't know, like it's kind of like the hype with Ahsoka is like we have no idea where we're gonna go. We're literally going to another galaxy, like we've never even been here, a new location, but now it's just a new time, and I don't know, it's working for me at least so far. I'm digging the High Republic, but not at least digging the Jedi as I thought I would.
And that's what's so jarring, man, is that like when it comes to the High Republic books, the Jedi are the greatest.
Man.
No doubt. And I think it's because they are facing a much more obvious enemy. They have an opposition, you know, like at this point it's not clear that the Jedi have an opposition, you know, like they just are. And they're doing what they do. So it's just, it does feel icky. It does feel bad. And
is this possible that this is just a small little side mission for the Jedi? And that like, because Indara, or not Indara, Venestra, you know, is kind of just like, all right, take a small team and go. Like just whatever. Just do this, take care of it, whatever. And then like, whatever, some details are slipping through the cracks and you should know we need to talk about this. So it seemed that it actually was important to to the whole council, but I was trying to think if there is like a big common enemy, and that's like what all the masters, you know, the council's focused on at the time, but this is just kind of like a side story, and
that's why I'm like I don't get the impression that this mission is of the utmost importance, you know, on Brendok. I get the impression that this is just run-of-the-mill procedure. This is something they do. They were going to Brendok because they heard the planet was uninhabited. Maybe they were going to set up a temple there. They discovered that it is inhabited. There are people here. Let's go ahead and check that out. They spot children. They're like, okay, well now we have to go check on the children. It seems like, you know, he sees that they're force sensitive, and it's just kind of what they do. You know, it's not even. Again, I don't think that there is actually malintent. It just feels icky. You know, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Man, it's so ambiguous. Yeah, it's so.
I'm excited to get the Jedi POV of this whole fucking conflict. But In a meeting of the advisors, they debate the future of the girls. There are concerns that the Republic would wipe them out if they hurt the Jedi. However, they can't just let the girls go. And Anastasia defends Osha. She says that she is old enough to know what she wants, and it is here that we learn Coral actually carried the twins and has no interest in handing them over. And Anastasia, however, decides what is final. An elder stands up and settles things. They have two options. They pass, they leave. They fail, and it is then we cut to the girls being instructed to fail the test on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
They struggle over the concept of the Jedi. May says bad, Osha says good, but Anastasia insists that it isn't about good and bad, but power, and who is allowed to wield it. Good line. Great line.
Good old
Jodie
line.
Turner-Smith is absolutely fantastic in this episode. She gets my character and performance as Mother Anastasia. And I absolutely adored her.
I'm right there with you. That is my line for the episode. I didn't even know, or I didn't clock that it was a trailer line whenever I took it down. It was just in the episode. I felt like it encompassed just kind of the whole debacle that's going on. It's that it is kind of this ambiguity, the power, just wielding the Force, and who should, who shouldn't, if they should in the first place, and right. I don't know, and it's really cool that Anastasia is, I don't know, just she really seems to just take in every angle, but clearly kind of has her own agenda as well. You know, like she seems like a level head and very neutral, but also like clearly has pulled the thread and she's clearly doing stuff, but, you know, and and that's what's interesting about her, because like I loved this character. I thought that she was an outstanding introduction. I think that Jodie Turner-Smith absolutely kills it. She's like I said, easily my favorite character of the episode, easily my favorite performance, and there is this ambiguity to her, and I'm interested if, when it comes to the Jedi perspective, they do something tonally to like show us them in a much more negative light. Not the Jedi, the Coven. Yeah.
Like this one was kind of from the perspective of the Coven, and it paints the Jedi and
I see.
What if from the Jedi perspective we actually see the Coven be kind of and you know, there is a little bit of an thing going on with the Coven, but it's not it is indoctrination, but like they've grown up in it. They live there. This is their home. This is their mom. This is their family. You know, so like that makes it a little better. It doesn't make it like great or anything, but it does make it at least a little more relatable and real and understandable.
And May, like, even, you know, she's like, well, the Ascension is how we become witches. Osha, like, just the word witches usually has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we do see the Jedi's perspective, they'll be like, yeah, they're witches. You know, we need to spy on them. They're probably torturing these kids. They're probably, you know, I don't know, maybe some witch stereotypes will
who
come up or
knows?
something.
Maybe, you know, they're relatively peaceful now because there's nothing else to happen, but like maybe they were persecuted for a reason, you know, like we don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, maybe they did do something that was like, oh shit, you know, like, let's get these and like, that would make sense if that's why they went into hiding and stuff. And like, I don't exactly 100% believe that right now, but at least then you would get why the Jedi are like trying to find them. That's so like I'm intrigued. I don't know. There's clearly more mystery going on. We don't know why they were persecuted. We don't know why they're in exile. Obviously, Mother Anastasia frames it in a way that is, you know, the galaxy is afraid of women like us, and valid. You know, extremely valid. But it's fascinating that there's still this lingering like sense of ill-ease on both sides, and I'm super excited to figure out exactly what the fuck happened. I think it's obvious, though, given what we see, that the Jedi don't come out clean. But
no, not at all. Something's fishy.
Yeah, for sure. I think somebody lying. Smell somebody lying. Yeah, Osha struggles with this concept of the power and who's allowed to wield it, who isn't, and she says the mother explains it as, it's just like the seasons. Things change as you grow older. In the summer we hunt with bunta, in the winter we hunt with bunta, in the summer bows and arrows. And she goes, yeah, but we hunt all the same. Which is kind of fire.
Path of the open hand here. I don't know. It's just kind of they're really going for it. I'd really like to hear it expressly mentioned.
You use the Force in this way. They use the Force in this way. We all use the Force.
Oh man.
Maybe there's something there, but. Yeah, maybe it culminates in Osha kind of cutting herself off from the Force. Maybe that's just all that happens. But May, when the time comes for the test, May swears her sister to failure. She asks her to promise that she'll lie. And nearby, as Kelnaxa fixes up a speeder, Osha greets him warmly, and May is walked out of her test by Torben. And Osha enters, and Torben speaks with her about his lightsaber and draws her blood. And Osha begins her test with Indara and Sol, and begins to fail on purpose. Sol easily reads that this is what she's doing, and tricks her into revealing herself. This was a cute scene, because at first I was kind of icked by it, but also, like, he can tell she's lying. It's not like it's not like he's trying to gotcha her. He's like, okay, yeah, good job. You're doing good. It is pretty cute. And whenever, he's like, she says mountain. He's like, correct. She's like, that's not a mountain. Fuck.
Damn it.
I loved this whole thing. And then he talks to her, did somebody tell you to fail this test? And, he explains to her his own story, that when he was 4, the Jedi ran the same tests on him. He was scared, but he got to the temple, and there were so many kids just like him. And this excites Osha, who has been very concerned with the fact that there are no other kids, and is, it's basically all she needs. So that's another thing. It's like, is that a touch manipulative? Perhaps. And Sol tells her she must be courageous and honest about her wants, and she wants to be a Jedi. She exits the ship and can't meet her sister's gaze, and therein May knows. And this scene was really strong. I love Lee Jung-jae. I think that he is just absolutely incredible as Sol. Even when Sol is doing stuff that you feel like is a little on the fence in terms of indoctrinate-y sort of tone, he still brings a warmness to it that's like, well, of course you trust that guy, it's like, I would, I love that guy. Fuck yeah, sure. And again, I do think it's important, he is preying, they are preying on somebody who is having doubts about their future, is malleable, isn't sure, Would it almost be better if they tried harder to convince May?
Yeah.
May is steadfast in her ways, but if they were like, I don't know what's worse. Like, the fact that they are going after the quote-unquote weak one who is not sure in her ways. Like, they are like, oh, you're unsure. You're going to come with us then, Or, because it's not their bag to convince people that aren't.
Yeah.
Like, she's 8 years old and fully committed to her coven. They aren't going to take her.
But the one that is clearly wanting out and actually would clear, it is clear that Osha does want this. It is from
it's
her
clear
own
that she
accord.
wants something else. And it is of note that even before the Jedi approach her, she's already scrawling, Jedi stuff in her notebook that May burns later on. She's drawing the logo of the Jedi in her notebook,
Uncle
and
Nick.
it's a little, little.
Sorry, I know.
Scrapbook.
I'm just recording a
has, like,
podcast
kind of a,
right now. I'm just in the car, so I didn't wake
dream
anybody
book,
up.
essentially.
But just
a
wanted
lot
to
of
let
Jedi
you know.
markings in there, which is
I just wanted to let you know. But
of note as well. It's clear that it's
Sorry.
not just that she wants something else, but that expressly she is interested in being a Jedi before the Jedi even come along, which I also think is important. But yeah, I don't know. That's. But again, I want to start to why I started that. That's why I love Lee Jung-jae, is because even in this tone where things are ambiguous, he's still so warm and lovely and just perfect as Master Soul. So I really dig him, and it's sad to see a character who is clearly on the wrong side of history that obviously has the best intentions at heart. You know, like he's trying his best, and perhaps he's a victim of his own system. He's perpetuating the cycle. You know, it's just it's interesting. I just dig it. I dig everything about Master Soul. But
yeah, and to have to learn English as well,
dude. What a king! What a king!
Like that's unbelievable. Like to put on a performance like that as well.
Well, and it's so cool that like we were talking so much about how Qui-Gon resembles the Jedi of old. He resembles the High Republic. That is Lee Jung-jae's inspiration for Soul.
That was so cool.
Is Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn. So like that's really fucking cool. You know, like I absolutely love that. But and he's clearly emanating that, especially with the parallels between Osha and Anakin. Qui-Gon being the one who took Anakin away. Like they are doing something there for sure. But they stand before their mother, and May condemns her sister. She swore, and Osha wanted to be honest, but in the process, she lied to May. And Osha confirms that she doesn't want to be a witch. And May lashes out, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And Anastasia has Coral take her away. And Anastasia tells her daughter that destiny is not decided by an anonymous force. She gets to make the choice. If she wants to pull the thread, she must pull it. And Osha asks if she'll ever see her again. And her mom replies that fear should not make this decision. She should. That's my line of the episode. I absolutely adored it. Just a generally good lesson. You know, you shouldn't make choices out of fear. You should know what you should decide what you want separated from that fear. And in the context, man, it hit like a truck. You know, fear should not make this decision. You should. And Osha tells her mom that she wants to be a Jedi. They cry and embrace. And Anastasia says, "Well, I'm going to talk to everybody about this, but know that we will consider your wish when we do so."
Yeah, that was just kind
of
sad.
Yeah. Also of note that, you know, her say is not the be all end all. You know, Osha being like, "I want to go with the Jedi." It's partially up to her. They are going to take that into account, but it's not entirely up to her. And Osha tells her mom that she loves her, and thus ends that scene. That was one of my favorite scenes of the episode. I absolutely adored that. But that night, Osha packs her things, grabs her notebook containing drawings of Jedi symbols, and May bursts in and tells her she won't let this happen. She's like, "Oh yeah, how are you going to stop me?" May's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you."
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
An escalation to be sure. And you're like, "Oh, okay, really?" And she grabs the notebook and runs away, and you're like, "Okay, she's not literally going to kill her. She's just playing with her." But then she locks the door, she sets the book on fire, and sets it outside. And you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, she intends to kill her sister by fire. Cool." Intense scene.
Is she being Jedi? I really hope not. I really hope she's not being like Jedi mind tricked to set this fire right now. And this is like, I don't know. That's so much. So much has to go right in order to. I don't know how Jedi mind trick can really work like that, but it does seem just like such a crazy escalation. It just went. I don't know. I guess.
I mean, they display that May has. I mean, a much more abrasive personality.
Yeah.
She gets much more angry, much quicker. She takes things a little far. We saw that with the butterfly at the beginning. You know, we saw the scene before with how angry she got. You know, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You know, so like, I severely doubt Jedi mind trick is involved. However, when they come face to face in a little bit, she asks Osha, "What did you do?"
Mm-hmm.
It almost seems
What?
like she thinks she set the fire.
Yeah. Like, because like, May knows that she set the first one, right? She only doesn't know that if there is
I
Jedi
don't
mind
know.
tricks in play.
I don't
But
know.
you think like she was in a trance or something? Like
That's
she,
why I'm like, that's distinctly possible. You know, like
Hmm.
is there something that like because she seems to genuinely not know what happened. You know,
Yeah. And do you think you don't like this first fire? Did it just chain reaction to the rest
No.
of the or
Fuck
like it
no.
was like
It
multiple
doesn't even
stages
get
and-
through the door.
Yeah, that's true. That
You know, like it sits right there in front of the door, and then when she gets out, when she's crawling through the tumble, there's rumblings above her and like fire going off and like
yeah,
all
something's
this shit. Like,
going on.
Something
Yeah,
else happened, and this fire is the cover, and that's for sure. Like, there's
wasn't there
no
a line
fucking
of like
doubt.
the Jedi sliced the something, like they cut off or they I forgot what they said, but it was like maybe right when they stopped the ascension. I'm not sure. Maybe it was then that the like mother, the Jedi, blah blah blah.
They got through. I think they sliced the gate or something like that. Like they got through.
Yeah, does that mean like with force or just like they've gotten through our defense? You know, they're almost here. Is like
I'm
what
not
they were
sure.
trying to say.
Yeah, I don't know, but regardless, like it's clear that this fire didn't do all of this.
Yeah.
And Ocean narrowly escapes through a hatch and finds her way to a power center of sorts. And there she runs into May again as an explosion rings out and tears the bridge in half. Get a lovely shot of them on both sides of the bridge. Thought that was cool. And this is my favorite scene. Just this whole sequence, this whole chaos reigning. Osha asks where their mom is, and May confirms that Mama is dead. And they yell at each other. What did you do? No, what did you do? What did you do? You know, like that. And you know, it's hard to say. Is May just blaming Osha for her actions?
Fucking up the ascension.
Yeah, like
and
all this is happening because you didn't want to be a witch. Is that kind of the perspective, or is it like genuinely? I don't know. What did you do? You know, I can't really tell. But Soul finds them in time as the bridge collapses, and May falls, but he manages to save Osha. And they run through a room full of dead people in a burning building, and then past her dead mom, and she screams and cries as the fortress burns. Yeah. They're all consolidated in like one spot too. Nothing like collapsed on them. Doesn't look good.
And I it's weird to look at dead bodies, but like I paused just to see if there was like if there were clear lightsaber cuts, and there was nothing of this. Like every body part was at least intact.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
One of my interesting, exciting ideas is that Anastasia wouldn't have done this. You know, she wouldn't have done something to try and like paint the Jedi in a bad light. But I think Coral would have. I think that there's a genuine possibility that Coral kind of goes off the deep end a little bit.
Yeah,
I'd
I
be
feel like
interested if she's included, in fact, in the pile of bodies at the end of the episode. Because I think there's a distinct possibility that she is.
My God.
Yeah.
The top dog.
Yeah.
She's the top dog, and the mask guy is actually the apprentice to her.
Yeah.
And then May would be the apprentice. Oh, okay.
That's where my head's at. That's where my head's at.
I like that. I mean, yeah, I see her holding resentment for a long time. You know, like obviously she gives her counsel and she likes the firm hand. She's much more like May. But I feel like her advice is rarely listened to. It seems that Anastasia kind of goes with her own way a lot of the time. And
she finally gets a chance to actually raise May in a way after this, you know, like if she brings her up in the dark side, if she brings her up in the side of things, maybe she connects May with this apprentice of hers or whatever. Because I don't know. I'm interested though because it doesn't seem like that tracks fully. I feel like Coral would be like more directly involved with the killing of these Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I'm like I'm excited by the prospect though. I think that there's a genuine possibility that Coral has more to do with this breakout, this whole thing happening than Anasea does, if that makes sense. I feel like there's the more militaristic tendency I feel like lies with Coral, and maybe regardless of what Anasea says, she is finally going to do what she thinks is right, you know?
Yeah. It feels like Anasea is gonna be the one to try to hold it down. Like she's gonna be the one to try to not use violence until it's absolutely necessary. But yeah, Coral, I like that theory though. Even if she's not the full master, but maybe is the spark of the fight that or whatever happened down there. But
okay. I think it's possible. But anyway, Osha wakes up on the Jedi ship. Sol comforts her as she wakes and explains what happened. May started a fire. It destroyed everything. It killed her mom and her sister. And pleading with Sol to take her back, he says there's nothing to go back to. He cries and assures her that she will never feel this way again. He's found his Padawan, and she her master. And this whole scene was, I mean, very good. Again, Lee Jung-jae is fucking incredible. Just the softness and everything he's going, like, obviously tormented by in this moment.
Why is it so good but also so bad at the same time, this scene? You know, it's like, I want to love it because he does do a good job of comforting her, you know, at least right now. Like, I mean,
but
sure,
clearly
it
not
feels
telling
like
her the full truth.
It feels like they're the reason for the mothers dying in the first place, so it's like, you know, it's probably the Jedi's fault, but at least right now, this Padawan, you know, this bond forming, you know, you can train as my Padawan, the hug, it feels really good. Like, it looks visually really, really good, and what I'm hearing feels good, but then I think of all the things that are going on in the background, and I'm like, oh no, this is actually, like, extremely manipulative and, like, extremely wrong, it feels like, and just, icky. I like that word for this episode. It just feels kind of icky.
It's like, oh god, and I don't know. I'm really excited though because I'm gonna give Sol the benefit of the doubt until the very end. I love this guy, you know, like I can't help it. I'm going with the idea that right before she wakes up, Master Indara's like, she can't know. You know, for the good of the Order, for the good of us, she can't know what happened. You know, and Sol has to make a tough decision and ultimately agrees that protecting the Jedi is better than.
Ooh,
you know.
Imagine that's why he's crying. Like, that's why he's crying. And or maybe both. You know, maybe it's like, damn, well, she did really lose her whole family. And her, you know, like, that does suck. But
I think I genuinely read it as that is why, like, that's why he's crying. Yeah. Not just because she's going through pain, but because he's lying. He's lying. He is lying to her, you know. And I think that I think that that's the case with Sol. I don't think he wants to. I don't think it's something that he's like, oh, well, goddamn, we need to cover this up. I don't feel like if that happened, it was his idea. You know, I don't feel like he was like, we got to figure out a way to cover this thing up. You know, I feel like he was just along for the ride, and now he's got to help maintain a story because the others are going to. And that's just me giving Sol the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. Maybe it prevails in some other direction, but Sol just seems like such a good fucking guy, and I would hate it if he's actually not great. But the episode ends on May arriving at the Boonta Tree, hoping that she would find Osha, left alone on Brendock.
No. Yeah, sadly, no. This, I mean, it feels like this ending feels kind of like a wrap on this flashback, at least. Like, it doesn't, I guess it's not like a cliffhanger in the sense of like, okay, we need to pick up right where we left off next episode.
No, this is the end of that. You know, we will. I think if we go back, it will be stuff that happened prior to this. Maybe we get something right after this with how May ends up where she does.
True. what she just does afterwards. I mean, her old coven is gone, and then I mean that would be really cool if there is one remaining, left alive. I don't know. Say all of them are dead completely. Like Anne May is the only one left. I don't. It kind of feels like there needs to be one remaining person. It feels kind of impossible for May. Do they have like ships? Do they have do they have like ways to get off planet?
I don't know. It wasn't made clear during this, I don't think. I imagine they do. They didn't come from Brendok. They retreated to Brendok.
They got there. Yeah. Man, yeah, I wonder how we open next episode. If it's just back in present time, and then maybe it is just back and forth now. Like maybe it's not the whole episode. Maybe we do get a little bit more of the flashback next episode as well. But I don't know. I don't know what I want more of. I don't know if I want more of this flashback time or present time.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's equal opportunity for both, which is why I'm kind of excited by it, I mean, let's see. Pretty sure. Okay, Kogo Nada, the gentleman who directed this one, directed one other episode, and it was episode 7. So, there is the possibility that we don't return to these flashbacks until then.
Wow. That would make sense for the director to kind of do both flashbacks, but man, imagine waiting. I mean, that would make sense for the big reveal to happen, that late, and it would have to happen in during the flashback, and probably the Jedi's point of view of it. Man, yeah, I wonder if that's telling or not. Just the director. It doesn't necessarily 100% mean it's true, but would make sense to give them both of the important kind of flashback scenes.
God. Oh, I love people on IMDb who are fucking idiots. It rocks, man. It's wonderful. This show's obviously been getting review bombed like crazy. But
yeah.
I was curious. This episode's a 4 out of 10 on IMDb right now. With, I mean, the 1-star ratings being just way outnumbering anything else. The first rating is, quote, terrible writing. With a $180 million budget, who decided that it makes sense for a small torch to engulf a whole mountain in flames within minutes? Smart guy. It obviously didn't. You're a fucking idiot. For those of you who are not familiar, no, rocks cannot get lit on fire. Not to mention there's a pile of 20 people laying on top of each other that somehow died and have no burn marks or scars or anything whatsoever. Good job, idiot. You're doing really good at figuring out what the fuck's going on here. The only thing that got me laughing in this episode is when I see an 8-year-old girl yell, "I will kill you," to her twin sister. Oh, and then we have these girls that are supposedly smart enough to spark a wire and open a door, but not smart enough to get off a falling platform. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you, Sam?
Yeah, at least I'm not. I'm just glad I'm not watching things, and that's what's going on in the back of my head. Or I'm not watching things because of these reasons, or whatever. They're clearly watching the show, actually. I don't know. It seems like it if they're having these gripes and they are reviewing it, or they're just saying the gripes that other people have and not watching the show at all, which is even worse. But yeah, that's just a shitty way to live, honestly. If it ends up being that this one fire actually ends up being the main thing,
obviously didn't.
In what way is that how the story goes? I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
If it because that's a good point. There's a pile of 20 bodies, not with any burn marks or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe the fire didn't fucking kill him, you goddamn idiot. That's it doesn't seem like such a fucking stretch to me.
Maybe the fire is a cover up. Oh, duh.
Yeah,
okay,
media
yeah.
literacy
I guess
is fucking dead, especially when you just want to hate people of color and gay people and women,
yeah.
You find a way to make everything fucking awful when you're a hateful son of a bitch. So
It's sad.
yeah. Anyway, no, I loved this episode though. I thought it was fantastic. I love Kogonada, like I said. I loved his direction, and I thought that this episode kind of fired on all cylinders.
Yeah,
It might-
if it could just keep the visual language the whole time, like that's. I mean, I'm not expecting it from a show like The Acolyte, but from a show like Andor is where that's kind of expected. But like I don't know, they prove it to us throughout the episode that they can go there. They're like, here's some really cool shots. Like during the Ascension, the camera pullback whenever Anase is walking through. All of the mothers, and then also whenever the girls walk through all of the witches, whenever they kind of like just the camera is slowly just being pulled back, and it's they like clearly they were doing really well, but then there were shots where it was that bland fog or just bland whatever.
Like, and it wasn't always like that, you know. Like I said, there's just an interesting balance of being like, oh, what happened there versus what's happening here, and. You know, when it comes to this magic, you can tell that there is you can see something, but you can't see it. And it's like, well, go all the way with that then. You know, like show me that shit. And that's, you know, so I don't know.
But
either way,
story-wise,
I'm extremely happy
loving
with
it though.
Oh, I love it, dude. I love the show.
Is...
3 episodes deep, and I am floored by how good it is. Like... It's really impressive in terms of storytelling specifically. I think that we are getting a grand, awesome mystery unfolding before us, which in Star Wars previously, the mysteries have been generally weak. They're fine, you know, the revelations are cool, but they're not like engaging through and through. And I feel like this has me. I'm so curious about so many things, and I'm so excited to figure it out. But yeah, man. The Acolyte Episode 3, Destiny. We got rid of the / title.
Oh.
Which I thought was interesting.
Huh?
I was like, what?
Okay.
I
thought that was going to stick the whole way through.
I thought it was
okay.
too. Maybe there's another, maybe this has a companion episode and it gets the second half of the name, you know?
That could be cool.
Maybe like Faith or Fate. You know, Destiny versus Fate or something like that. I don't know, but
if next episode's Fate, that's gonna be pretty baller.
That'd be pretty fucking cool. That'd be pretty fucking cool. Yeah, no, but yeah, strong episode. Very, very much so loved episode 3 of The Acolyte, and yeah, man, I don't have much else to say on it. Are we ready for the question of the week?
Oh yeah, I think it is time.
Hell yeah. Okay, this was asked on Twitter by Funko Tony Soprano. Shout out to Funko Tony Soprano. Love you, man.
Great Twitter
He asked
account.
us... Yes, great Twitter account. He asked us to swap an actor for a character. Swap 3 actors for 3 characters across all the movies. Anywhere you want to plug in an actor into an existing role, go ahead and do it. It can be anachronistic. They don't have to have been famous at the time. They don't have to have been acting at the time. Just anyone you think would fit in any role ever. And I've got 3 good ones. I've got 3 goodies, and I'm excited for it. I ended up taking this to be 1 from each trilogy. That's how I did it. And one of the things I found when thinking about this is that I cannot imagine any of the women being played by anyone else. Like Leia's not going to get played by anyone else besides Carrie Fisher. Rey, that's Daisy Ridley. I literally can't even fathom that being played by anyone else. I couldn't even come up with a replacement for Padme in the prequels, and it's also kind of sad to say that there's a lot less options on that side. In a franchise that so many dude bros are so convinced is being, you know, taken over by women, I can name 3 in the movies. You know, so it is what it is. There's obviously more. There's obviously more, but like certainly not in a main player capacity. But yeah, so all of mine ended up being actor swaps because I love Carrie Fisher, Natalie Portman, and Daisy Ridley too much to swap any of them. But I will start with my original trilogy pick, which is a swap for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I do love Sir Alec Guinness, and that's another really important emphasis, is that like all of these, it's not because I don't like the performance that was given. It's because I just thought of this and was like, whoa, that would have been fucking cool. So my gut took me to where just the influence is heavy from Akira Kurosawa films. I think that Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan Kenobi would have been fucking awesome in the first one. The actor who was in Yojimbo as Sanjuro and led Seven Samurai and Rashomon, all these things from Akira Kurosawa and much more. Miyamoto in the Samurai trilogy. Toshiro Mifune could have been a fantastic Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I believe I've read that was originally what George Lucas wanted to do, but the language barrier was too much to overcome, and Toshiro Mifune wasn't interested in doing a movie like this.
Dang,
Yeah.
imagine
So
that
I'm happy
world.
with what we got. I love Alec
Yeah,
Guinness, but it would have been very cool to see Toshiro Mifune in that role. But I don't know if I just can't hear you or if you stop talking. Were you talking? If you are talking, I cannot hear you. Well, then I'm going to say my next one because I can't hear you.
Yo,
There you are.
I think
Hi.
are we back?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, cool. I think we're cool. I
Okay,
think we're all
could you not hear me
I don't know.
either?
No, I could not.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't hear you either.
Okay.
But okay, yeah. So Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan Kenobi was my first pick for the OT. Do you have an OT one?
I do, and it's kind of weird that you picked Alec Guinness. I picked the other kind of actor that was in the movie to give it prowess. I feel like, and it's Moff Tarkin. I wanted to replace. I don't know why I had this thought, but I wanted. I guess the first actor that popped in my head was Keanu Reeves, and then I'm like, well, I don't really know if there's a character that I would want Keanu to play, really. So then I kind of thought, well, okay, I was in the Matrix mind, and I wanted Lawrence Fishburne as Grand Moff Tarkin. I don't know. I don't like just him as the what's him and John the what king Bowery King. I want him to go like full evil mode and just like to see what what he would do as just the true bad guy.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
And yeah, I don't know.
That's
I just
I would.
that
was because when you said Matrix, my thoughts went to Hugo Weaving. As Moff Tarkin.
Yeah, I guess. That could have. Yeah, I guess white guy kind of makes it work a little better. It kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Evil white guy works better.
Saying Lawrence
Agent
Fishburne
Smith,
though,
but
going with the original trilogy a little bit. Furious Styles, Boys in the Hood, Deep Cover era Lawrence Fishburne as Lando Calrissian.
Ooh,
would have been fucking tough. Would have been fucking tough.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Man,
so
okay,
there's a lot of options there. Another thought I had was Ian McKellen as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ooh, okay.
I think he also could have made a good Tarkin. Actually, now that I'm saying it out loud, but
yeah,
no, that's a. There's a lot of options there, but yeah, I went Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan Kenobi. But did you end up getting a prequel one in? Because I've got a goodie. And this is my biggest swap. I went with an Anakin Skywalker replacement. And I do love Hayden Christensen. But there was just one actor who I think that could have fucking nailed it. And that's Robert Pattinson.
Ooh,
I think Robert Pattinson as Anakin Skywalker would have been fucking cold. I enjoy Robert Pattinson a great deal, and I think that as Anakin Skywalker, he could have fucking bodied that.
The fallen angel, Robert Pattinson. Oh yeah. No, that would be very nice. No, a very big swap. That's for sure. You know, we all love Hayden, and that I do feel the same exact way. It's like no hate for the swaps because I'm swapping Obi-Wan, and that I feel like is probably the next biggest swap. And the thought I had is someone who is kind of nice with it action wise, and actually has a lot of acting prowess to him too. And my mind just went to X-Men and the Killer, and I thought of Michael Fassbender coming into Star Wars. And as Obi-Wan, he's not real dad joke like, so it kind of doesn't work as Obi-Wan. Like as I don't know, it'd be interesting to see Michael Fassbender kind of like that. Take on like just kind of the dad joke, but just more of action wise. I want to see him just fight as a Jedi. And stuff. But
the action vein is also what kind of got me excited. So the other one that I considered for Anakin was actually early to mid 80s or just 80s era Tom Cruise as Anakin. I thought could be interesting as well. 80s or
could have got some crazy stunts. Some crazy stunts and as Anakin. I don't know what they could have done. But
he actually would have dove out of the speeder that was flying 300 feet above the ground. Like that actually would have been something he did.
He actually would have gotten his limb sliced off.
I like Fassbender as Obi-Wan. That's a fun choice. I hadn't considered that. But Pattinson as Anakin. When I thought of that, I was like, "There's no doubt. That's the one I'm going with."
I like that. I do like that.
And then my sequel trilogy pick is one that I'm personally a big fan of. I replaced Poe Dameron, which is funny because, aside from Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac probably is my favorite actor in the sequel trilogy. Daisy Ridley's my favorite above all, but I actually replaced him with Dev Patel. I think Dev Patel as Poe Dameron would have been fucking awesome. I think that would have been a good fit for him. And I liked that a lot.
Damn. Well, I love the. I guess I don't know. The relationship between Poe and Finn, that is definitely there. It's just 100% certain. And I was the only character because I can't replace Rey. I can't replace Han. I can't replace Leia. I can't. No. It's like who else can you replace? And I'm like, okay, I'm coming down to Finn, but then I feel bad because it's like John Boyega was just already done so dirty anyways. But maybe it's better. Maybe it's better to just throw someone else in there because he was just done so dirty anyways. But but the thought that crossed my mind was just I love me some Nope. I love me some Get Out. I would just love to see Daniel Kaluuya in Star Wars in any capacity. And I think I don't know if we do get a rewrite on Finn, or I don't know do Finn some justice. It'd be because I don't know if John Boyega's really keen on coming back. I don't know.
Yeah, hard to say. But yeah, no, that's a good pick too. Daniel Kaluuya as Finn. Another one that I had in mind was, do you remember DJ, the stuttering lockpick guy in The Last Jedi, played by Benicio del Toro?
Okay. Yeah.
Jeffrey Wright as that guy. I thought could be cool. I thought that would be cool.
Yeah, I could see Jeffrey Wright a nice little stutter, and you want to trust him at first, but then damn it, little, he's I don't know. I could see Jeffrey fucking up that role. I hate how I just call actors by their first names, like I know them on a personal basis. It's just how my brain works. I don't know why, but Jeffrey Wright. No, I mean, yeah, I'd love him in Star Wars. In any way I can get him. It's just when I don't know. It's gonna have to be a movie to get people that big. It feels like I don't know, or an Andor. I don't know. Maybe Andor. They have some surprise big name people for how season 1 did. But man, I don't know. Just to get people like we've been saying, like to get people these replacements, what it would take for them to sign on. Yeah.
I would love to see Dev Patel on a Star Wars thing. I
would. Man, him and I don't know. I feel like him and Ezra as fun. What's
Amon Esfandi. That's his name.
Okay, I knew I was like combining his first and last name. I knew I was tripping up there. But like I feel like them just together somehow. If Ezra could somehow have a friend, and Dev Patel is just another just super chill like Ezra type.
They could click.
I feel like they could be best friends.
I know I put him in the role of Poe. But I could see him much more on the scoundrel side of things. I think he could. I think he could thrive over there. I think that he could. in that sort of outlaw bounty hunter, but not a bounty hunter, just kind of a swindler sort of vibe. I feel like Dev Patel could knock that out of the park. More similar to Lando than he is to, Boba Fett, just kind of,
I see.
Suave and extravagant, but he has a good time. I could see it. There's actually a couple people in the new High Republic books, which we just got a new release yesterday. Temptation of the Force. Fucking love it so far. I'm over 100 pages in already. Absolutely adoring it. The High Republic is alive. So very happy with it. So, and there's a couple. There's a character in it named Care Santeca that I think I could see Dev Patel fucking bodying if it was translated to live action. But yeah, no. With that will conclude this episode of Fulcrum, a Star Wars podcast. We will be back next week with Season 1, Episode 4 of The Acolyte, right here, same time, same place. You can catch us on Cinema Surprise talking Casablanca this Friday, and on the Penny Bloom podcast, we are also going to begin Fire and Bloom this Friday with a Season 2 preview. So you can catch that all this week, and then next week, come back to Fulcrum. We got Season 1, Episode 4 for you. You can follow us on Twitter, @TheFulcrumPod. That's where we get all our Q&As. That's where we want you to ask questions. That's where we want to answer them. This week, unfortunately, did not have video. Joe's out of town, so we've had a little bit of a different setup going. But we will normally have video for you on YouTube. You can look up Penny Bloom, or look up the Fulcrum Pod, and we are there. Yeah. With that, I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, for light and life,